The men from Harmony Herbals arrived in 2 white vans on October 14, 2026, at 6:47 a.m. They wore pressed shirts and carried leather portfolios. The lead buyer, James Chun, was the third one that week. He stepped carefully through the woods, following Emma Rourke deeper into the hardwood forest. The morning light came sideways through yellow birch and sugar maple, 400 feet above sea level in the Appalachian foothills of West Virginia, Randolph County, 43 acres that hadn't been logged since 1981. How much are we talking? Chin asked. Emma stopped at a marked section, knelt down, and carefully brushed aside leaf litter. The ginseng root beneath was thick as her thumb, perfectly formed, easily 12 years old based on the scar count on the stem. But she'd only planted it 3 years ago. Chin's breath caught. That's wild simulated? Yes, sir. How many plants? 41,000, scattered across 22 acres. He pulled out his phone, did calculations she'd already done 100 times. At current market rates for premium wild simulated ginseng, 15-year-old appearance, perfect form, verified sustainable harvest. He looked up at her, eyes sharp. Miss Rourke, I'm authorized to offer you $300 per pound, dried weight. If you have what you say you have, we're talking about a $500,000 contract. Emma's face didn't change. I'll think about it. She'd heard bigger offers yesterday. 3 years, 2 months earlier the church parking lot in Helvetia, West Virginia, was gravel and dust. July 9, 2023, 11:23 a.m. Temperature 91 degrees. Emma Rourke, 26 years old, sat in her dead Honda Civic with everything she owned in 2 garbage bags and a backpack. Her stepmother's voice still echoed. Your father's will was clear. The house goes to me. You're an adult. Figure it out. $483 in her checking account. No college degree. She left school when Dad got sick, spent 3 years caring for him, watching him fade from the cancer that ate his lungs. He'd been a coal miner for 30 years, then a security guard, then bedridden. He'd left her one thing her stepmother couldn't touch: knowledge. Her father's father, Grandpa Rourke, had been a ginseng farmer back when that meant something, before the woods got logged, before the mines expanded, before the old ways died with the old men. He'd taught her father, and in those last months, when the morphine made Dad's mind drift, he taught Emma. Not in words, in walks. Even dying, Dad had insisted on going into the woods behind the property, land that technically belonged to the neighbor, Old Man Garrett, who'd stopped caring about 43 acres of steep hillside 20 years ago. Dad would lean on Emma's arm, shuffle between the trees, point at leaves, bark, slope aspects. North-facing slope. See the shade? Hardwoods. That's where ginseng wants to be. He'd shown her how to spot wild ginseng, how to identify the 3-pronged leaves, how to check for berries. He'd made her harvest a plant once, carefully, explaining how to take only mature roots, how to plant the seeds back. Your grandfather had notebooks, he'd said one afternoon, breathless from the walk. In the crawl space. Left side. Metal box. She'd found them after he died. 3 spiral notebooks, 1970s era, pages yellowed but ink still clear. Grandpa Rourke's handwriting, block letters, methodical, wild simulated ginseng cultivation, planting techniques, soil requirements, seed stratification, and something else, a hand-drawn map of Garrett's 43 acres, with specific areas marked. Best sites: north slopes, 15 to 20 degree grade, sugar maple, tulip poplar canopy. The last page had a note in her father's handwriting, dated 3 weeks before he died. Emma, Garrett owes me money from 2019, $1,200. He won't pay cash, but he'll lease you the land cheap if you ask. He's too old to care. Plant ginseng. Follow Dad's notes. 3-year minimum before harvest. Be patient. This is slow money, but it's real. I'm sorry I can't give you more. Dad sitting in the Civic. Emma pulled out her phone. It took 4 calls to find Garrett's number. His voice was rough, suspicious. Emma Rourke, Ben's daughter. I heard he passed. Sorry about that. Mr. Garrett, my dad said you owed him money. Silence. Then, maybe. What's this about? I want to lease your back 40 acres. The wooded section. For what? Ginseng. He laughed. A sound like a shovel on gravel. Ginseng's gone from these hills. Been gone 30 years. I want to plant it. Wild simulated method. You know what you're doing? My grandfather's notebooks. Another pause. You're Bill Rourke's granddaughter? Yes, sir. Bill knew Ginseng. His voice softened slightly. I'll lease you the land for $1 a year. 3-year minimum. After that, we talk about terms if you're actually growing something. But I'm telling you now, nobody's made money on ginseng in this county since the 80s. Yes, sir. Thank you. She met him that afternoon at his property, a sagging farmhouse off Route 20, paint peeling, porch tilted. He was 81 years old, walked with a cane, had hands like tree roots. He signed a 1-page lease agreement she'd printed at the library. No lawyer. No witnesses. You'll fail, he said, not unkindly. But your grandfather was a stubborn man. I respect that. Emma took her $483, spent $67 on a used tent and camping gear at Goodwill, $120 on stratified ginseng seeds from a supplier in North Carolina, $85 on basic tools, a hoe, trowel, collection bags. The rest went to food. She set up camp in Garrett's Woods on July 12, 2023. For 3 weeks, she worked alone, mapping the slopes, testing soil with her hands, texture, moisture, composition, following her grandfather's notes, identifying the best sites, north and east-facing slopes, 15 to 20-degree grades, mature hardwood canopy, rich leaf litter. She planted at night, by headlamp, when the woods were cool. Each seed went into carefully prepared soil, mixed with leaf mold, placed at precise depths. She followed the map, scattered the plantings naturally, no rows, no patterns. Wild simulated meant making it look like nature had done it. 22 acres. 41,000 seeds. Her back screamed. Her hands bled. She lost 12 pounds she didn't have to lose. And people started noticing. The first visitor came on August 3rd. Travis Garrett, the old man's nephew, maybe 40 years old, drove a new Silverado and wore clean Carhartt. He found Emma's camp, the tent tucked behind a rock outcrop, her supplies covered with a tarp. You're the girl growing ginseng? Emma was boiling water for ramen on a camp stove. Yes. My uncle says you're wasting your time. Maybe. He looked around at the woods, the tools, the obvious poverty of her setup. You living out here? Temporarily. You know ginseng takes 7 years to mature, right? Minimum. And that's if it even grows. Emma knew the conventional wisdom. 7 to 10 years for truly valuable roots. But her grandfather's method was different. Wild simulated with specific mycorrhizal inoculation, careful site selection, seed genetics from old-growth populations. His notes claimed mature-looking roots in 3 to 4 years. She'd either prove him right or waste 3 years of her life. I'm aware, she said. Travis shook his head. There's a reason nobody does this anymore. The market collapsed. Even if you grow something, there's no buyers. I'll worry about that when the time comes. He left shaking his head. The mockery spread. Helvetia was a town of 312 people. Everyone knew everyone's business. By September, Emma was that girl living in the woods, playing farmer. When she came to town for supplies, walking the 6 miles because the Civic died permanently in August, people stared. At the Dollar General, 2 women by the checkout counter didn't bother lowering their voices. I heard she's homeless. Her stepmother kicked her out. Sad, but what did she expect? The girl dropped out of school. And now she thinks she's going to get rich on ginseng. My husband's uncle tried that in the 90s. Lost everything. Emma paid for her rice and canned beans, said nothing, walked back into the heat. Winter was worse. The tent wasn't built for West Virginia cold. She insulated it with tarps and trash bags, slept in every layer she owned, woke to ice crystals on the inside of the tent fabric. She worked odd jobs when she could find them, cleaning houses, stacking firewood. One brutal week helping a logging crew for cash under the table. She saved every dollar. Checked the plantings every week, carefully, looking for signs. Nothing visible. Ginseng seeds took 18 months just to germinate. Old man Garrett came out twice that first winter, brought her firewood once without comment. The second time, he brought a thermos of coffee. You're tougher than I thought. Thank you. You're also crazier than I thought. Emma smiled slightly. My grandfather was crazy too. Bill was focused. Different thing. He looked at the woods, the snow-covered slopes. You really think this'll work? I have to believe it will. He nodded slowly. 3 years. That's what we agreed. You make it 3 years, I'll extend the lease. But Emma, if nothing grows, you need a backup plan. She had no backup plan. This was it. Year 2 was watching and waiting. The seeds germinated in spring 2024, tiny shoots, barely visible, scattered across 22 acres. Emma marked them carefully, tended them without disturbing, followed her grandfather's instructions. Minimal intervention, let the forest do the work. She got a part-time job that summer at a hardware store in Elkins, 16 miles away. A coworker let her park a camper trailer on his property for $50 a month. She showered at the YMCA, ate cheaply, saved everything above survival costs, and walked the woods every evening, checking growth, watching the plants establish. Travis came by again in fall 2024. I heard you're still at this. Yes. Seen any growth? Some. He laughed. You know the poachers will take it before it's worth anything, right? Ginseng theft is huge in these hills. Emma had thought about that. She'd camouflaged her plantings carefully, scattered them, kept no trails. And she'd started sleeping in the woods again 3 nights a week, watching. I'm careful, she said. Careful doesn't stop. Desperate people. But he was wrong about desperation. The real threat came from developers. In January 2025, a company called Appalachian Energy Solutions contacted Old Man Garrett about buying his property. Natural gas exploration. Fracking potential. They offered $180,000 for land he'd bought for $12,000 in 1979. He called Emma. I'm 83 years old. My kids don't want this land. That's life-changing money. Her chest went tight. What about the lease? I'd honor it through the end. July 2026. But after that, he sighed. I'm sorry, Emma. I like what you're doing. But I'm old and I'm tired. She had 18 months. Not enough time. Ginseng needed at least 3 years, preferably 4, to reach marketable size with her grandfather's method. Unless the method worked better than even Grandpa Rourke had documented. Emma spent every spare moment in the woods that spring. The plants were in their second growing season, stems thickening, leaves healthy. She began carefully test harvesting, 1 root per acre, checking development. What she found made her hands shake. The roots looked 4 years old. Thick, formed, with the gnarled appearance buyers wanted. The mycorrhizal treatment, the site selection, the genetics, it was all working faster than conventional wisdom said possible. She dried the samples, photographed them, sent images to 3 buyers. 2 didn't respond. 1, Harmony Herbals, sent a cautious email. If verified authentic and you have quantity, we'd be interested in discussing purchase. Emma planted more that spring, another 15,000 seeds in new sections, insurance against the timeline. She worked herself to exhaustion, dropped to part-time at the hardware store, lived on rice and lentils. By September 2025, the first plantings were visibly valuable. She began selective harvest, taking only the best roots, replanting seeds, sustainable method like her grandfather taught. She had 63 pounds, dried weight, from the first harvest. At current market rates, maybe $12,000 worth if she could find a buyer. She contacted Harmony Herbals again. They sent an inspector, a serious woman named Dr. Kay Lin who walked the woods for 4 hours, tested soil, examined roots under magnification, asked 100 questions. This is legitimate wild simulated, Lin said finally. Premium quality. How much land do you have planted? 22 acres. 41,000 plants remaining after selective harvest. Lin did calculations on a tablet. If the rest matches this quality. Miss Rourke, you're sitting on significant value. We'd want exclusive purchasing rights. Not exclusive, but I'll give you first option. Fair enough. We'll send a formal offer. The offer came in October, $280 per pound for certified wild simulated, verified sustainable harvest, minimum 200 pounds per year for 3 years. Emma signed it, harvested carefully, delivered the first shipment in November 2025. The check was $17,640. She paid Old Man Garrett $5,000 cash to extend the lease 5 more years. He took it with shaking hands. I'll be dead before 5 years, he said quietly. Then I'll deal with your estate. But I need time to establish this properly. He nodded. Your grandfather would be proud. Bill always said patience is the hardest part of farming. By spring 2026, word had spread through industry networks. Emma's wild simulated ginseng was testing as high quality as roots from established old-growth populations. Buyers started calling. The offers escalated through summer 2026. Harmony Herbals remained her primary buyer, but competitors emerged, Traditional Remedies Limited from California, offering $315 per pound. Mountain Botanicals from North Carolina, offering $290 plus transportation costs. An export company representing Korean buyers, offering $340 for premium-grade roots. Emma didn't sell to the highest bidder immediately. She'd learned patience from her grandfather's notes, caution from 3 years of survival. She harvested selectively. Only 30% of mature plants per year, always replanting seeds, maintaining the population. By August, she had 287 pounds dried from the 2026 harvest. At $300 average per pound, that was $86,100. More than her father made in his best year at the mines. More than her stepmother's house was worth. She bought a used pickup truck, 14 years old, reliable, for $1,200 cash. Rented a small house in Helvetia, $550 a month. First place she'd had a real bed in 3 years. Started hiring help for harvest season. 2 locals who needed work, paid them $18 an hour, showed them the sustainable method. And people's attitudes shifted like weather. Travis Garrett came by the property in September, different now. Respectful. I heard you're doing well. Making it work. My uncle says you paid him $5,000 to extend the lease. Yes. That was generous. He would have honored the original terms. Emma looked at him steadily. Your uncle gave me a chance when I had nothing. $5,000 was fair. Travis nodded slowly. I was wrong. About what I said 3 years ago. I'm sorry. You weren't wrong to be skeptical. Most people would have failed. But you didn't. She almost smiled. Not yet. The hardware store where she'd worked part-time offered her a management position. She declined. Gently, gratefully. Her boss, a man named Frank who'd never asked questions about why she lived in a camper, just nodded. You've got something good growing. Stick with it. The real validation came in October when Dr. Lin from Harmony Herbals returned with James Chun, their acquisitions director. They wanted to formalize a long-term contract, exclusive purchasing rights for 50% of her annual harvest, guaranteed minimum price of $300 per pound adjusted for inflation, 5-year term. We're also interested in your cultivation method, Lin said carefully. Would you consider consulting for restoration projects in other regions? Emma thought about her grandfather's notebooks, knowledge nearly lost, her father's faith that she'd continue it. I'd consider teaching, not consulting. There's a difference. What's the difference? Consulting means you pay me to tell you what to do. Teaching means I help people learn to do it themselves. I'd want to teach. Chun and Lin exchanged glances. We have grant funding for sustainable agriculture education. We could structure something. By November 2026, Emma had taught 4 workshops, small groups of farmers, foresters, and restoration specialists. She charged $500 per person, taught them her grandfather's method, showed them her woods, gave them stratified seeds to start their own plots. One participant was a woman from Kentucky, maybe 35, recently divorced, trying to figure out how to keep her family's land. She stayed after to talk. I don't have much money, she admitted. But I have 80 acres of woods. Is this really possible? Emma saw herself 3 years ago, desperate, broke, clinging to inherited knowledge. Yes, but it takes patience. And you have to believe it'll work even when everyone says you're crazy. How long did it take you? 3 years to first real harvest. 5 years to stability. Maybe 10 to prove it's sustainable long-term. The woman nodded, fear and hope mixing on her face. I could do 3 years. Then start now. The best time to plant ginseng was 7 years ago. The second best time is today. Emma gave her seeds at cost, exchanged phone numbers, promised to answer questions. By December, Emma had contracts worth $340,000 for the next year's projected harvest. She'd hired for part-time workers. Started looking at adjacent land. Another 60 acres Old Man Garrett's estate would eventually sell. And she'd begun writing. Her grandfather's notebooks had saved her. She wanted to preserve that knowledge for whoever came next. She spent evenings documenting everything. Site selection, seed stratification, mycorrhizal treatment, sustainable harvest techniques, market navigation. She wrote clearly, simply, the way Grandpa Rourke had written. No fancy language, just practical wisdom. On December 23, 2026, Old Man Garrett died quietly in his sleep. His nephew Travis called her. The funeral's Friday. He left you something in the will. The something was the 43 acres. No conditions, no payment. Just a handwritten note with the deed. Emma Rourke proved me wrong. She earned this land. My family doesn't need it. She does. Robert Garrett. Emma stood in the woods on Christmas morning, snow falling through the bare branches, landing on leaves that covered 41,000 ginseng plants in various stages of growth. Her woods now, her crop, her future. She thought about her father, who'd died believing she'd be okay. About her grandfather, who'd left knowledge instead of money. About old man Garrett, who'd taken a chance on a desperate girl with nothing but inherited notebooks and stubborn faith. The buyers would line up again next fall. Bigger offers, more contracts, expansion opportunities. But standing there in the snow, what Emma felt wasn't triumph. It was responsibility. This land, this knowledge, this method, it was bigger than her survival. It was proof that slow money was real money. That old ways could save people the way they'd saved her. That patience and wisdom could outlast mockery and doubt. She pulled out her phone, took a photo of the snowy woods, posted it to the small blog she'd started for her workshops. Year 3, harvest complete. Year 4, expansion begins. If you're starting from nothing, plant anyway. Give it time. Trust the knowledge. The land provides, not quickly, but truly. Within an hour, 43 people had shared it. Emma smiled, pocketed the phone, and walked deeper into her woods to check the newest plantings. Spring seeds would go in the ground in March. She had 20 more acres to plant, 10 years to build something sustainable, a lifetime to prove her grandfather right. The work was just beginning. But beginning from ownership, not desperation. From knowledge, not guesswork. From a place to stand, not a tent in the cold. She'd started with $500 and inherited notebooks. 3 years later, she had land, contracts, students, and something more valuable than any of it. Proof that the old way still worked, if you were patient enough to let them. The ginseng grew slowly in the dark soil, roots reaching deeper, exactly as it was supposed to. Emma walked home through her woods, boots crunching in fresh snow, finally warm enough.